Up next, I get a chance to chat with the man who is most famous for his work with Windows. And now he's bringing his talents to Office as the CVP. Please welcome Joe Belfiore to Microsoft Ignite. Joe, thanks for joining us, my friend.
You bet. It's great to be here. Nice to see everyone virtually. Hello.
Yeah, thank you. Welcome to Ignite. Joe, you've been running Office now for about 9 months. How do you find Office today?
It's been an amazing experience to move over from working on Windows to working on Office. And probably the thing that has struck me the most is the degree to which the Office engineering team and product design team embraces customer data. I mean, I thought we were doing that in Windows a lot, but in this case, like there's a service that's live. We're looking at dashboards every day that tell us about the health of different companies and tenants, everything from performance and reliability to usage. It is amazing how much customer data plays a role in the way Office gets things done.
And what's changing most about Office at the moment? What does the road look like ahead for it?
That's a great question. Office today is not the classic Word, Excel, PowerPoint bundle of apps. The thing that I think is most promising about the future of Office is rooted in its cloudness now. We're building and operating it as a service. We have tons of data and information in real time about what's happening out there. And probably the way that we're using that to create the most benefit for people is investing in intelligence. And so that technique and those technologies help us make Office faster and more reliable, building on those fundamentals, but also deliver tons of new customer benefit. Things like PowerPoint Designer, which gets better and better at helping you make your slide decks beautiful and easy to understand. Things like Editor in Word, which helps people write better, whether you're working in a company or you're a student with a paper. I mean, people are using these tools for all kinds of things today. The intelligence work in Office is probably the thing that will impact its future the most.
So all of the thousands of features in Office, what's your favorite one historically? And looking ahead, what are you looking forward to most as a new feature?
Okay, historically, I guess I'll show a little of my bias in choosing the integration of OneDrive with Windows as my favorite historic feature. I have found that, I use multiple PCs. Before COVID, I was on the road plenty. And even with COVID, I'm moving around the house. Being able to have my documents synced to my local hard drive in a seamless way gives me the benefit of all that cloud goodness with collaboration, but also local copies of stuff. And I think the team has done a really great job of integrating that in. You asked my favorite new feature. I think I would have to pick what the team is doing with dictation. And I know this probably exposes some of my personal bias. Like there are times where you got to write a lot and my wrists will get tired. And I've been experimenting with the dictation support in Office quite a bit lately, and it is coming along in an amazing way. And one of the things I love about it is that if you have to write something long, it frees you up from doing it at the confines of your keyboard. One of the things that I did was I used Office dictation to write we call them connects at Microsoft. This is writing feedback for people on how they're doing. And it's a lot of writing. And I could do that with my laptop sitting outside and I could be comfortable. I had a friend who was writing a book. And so I was able to read their book on Kindle and then use Office Mobile on my phone to just speak comments. And it was an amazing way to write. And the team has invested in great voice recognition, in commanding, in UI that makes it easy to learn how to use the feature. Lots of great stuff coming there. That's probably my favorite current feature.
We had Jeff Teeper on the show a little while back, clearly talking about Teams and everything happening there. But how do you think about Teams alongside Office? What's the opportunity?
With the impact that COVID has had on the way that people are doing so much work from home and so much remote work, our team has actually shifted to make that integration with Teams one of the biggest places that we're investing overall. And if you think about the range of possibilities here, I mean, it really is amazing what we can do when our organizations work together. To give some really good specific examples, tons of Teams meetings are conducted with PowerPoint presentations. And a lot of those today are not presented richly. And so there's work that we're doing right now to make that experience far better for people who are watching those presentations on Teams, and also people who are presenting. And this is things like, as a viewer of a PowerPoint presentation, being able to navigate forward and back in the slides, being able to give reactions like likes and loves to the person who's presenting, filling out a form, giving them feedback on how they did. That'll help people present better. And for people who are presenting, things like the presenter view being possible within Teams, so you can see the Teams chat, navigate around your slide deck, see what comments are coming from people, and conduct your presentation in a much better way. If you think about it, pre-COVID, PowerPoint was a tool largely for people presenting in conference rooms or classrooms. And today, it's moving to be a tool for presenting online, and there's so much we can do there. Not to go on and on about this, but there's more too. A lot of the places that Office invests today are sort of the new productivity kinds of tasks. And by that, I mean things like Microsoft Planner and integrating Planner in Teams so that people and organizations have a great way to track the tasks they need to get done. And things like forms. Being able to use forms in an interactive way while you're presenting or in a meeting is a great way of enabling new productivity, getting data from people, whether it's synchronous in the meeting or asynchronous via email. So there's tons of things that we're doing across the board in Office to make that Teams experience better. And then I should add that beyond that, even in the classic apps, Word, Excel, we're continuing to invest in making collab better. And we see lots and lots of situations where some companies and organizations use a Word doc as the backbone of a meeting, where people are reading a Word doc in the beginning, and then people are iterating on ideas right there in Word. And so collab needs to be great. And the beautiful thing about that is the benefits of that work happen outside Teams as well as inside. So I think you'll see Office really continue to evolve in a meaningful way in making those meetings a lot more effective and helping people to collaborate better in our much more online world.
I think one of the best demos in the keynotes earlier was when we saw PowerPoint inside Teams with all of that new capability that you're going to be releasing. It's going to make meetings more fun and more durable, I think, as well. Now, another direction for me that I think Office has really come a long way on is cross-platform. How do you think about cross-platform?
Well, this has been a fun area for me to work on. I've had a long history at Microsoft of working on phone products, which some of you may be aware of, going back years ago to Windows Phone. And I am amazed at the level of great product thinking and engineering expertise that's being poured into Office on mobile. And another thing that's been really interesting is to see the impact of our partnership with Samsung. So the Office experience described broadly, including the Office app, Teams, even OneNote, these all have terrific mobile parts to the story. And we're seeing usage of these grow quite a bit. I think some of it has to do with people embracing online, moving to cloud. And so when you pick up your phone, all of your content is readily available. And I think some of it also has to do with the fact that the team that's been working on these mobile experiences, I think, has done a great job of embracing the uniqueness in mobile. And that's features like being able to use the camera on the phone to scan data right into Excel. And there's lots and lots of great things that are further coming when you combine the power of an intelligent service with the flexibility of a mobile endpoint.
Office is the world's productivity platform. And when I think about the huge user base you have, how do you listen to a user base that's that big?
There are a ton of different techniques that the team brings into play. Some of them I mentioned earlier, like real-time dashboards that give us incredibly great insights into what's happening in the world right now in aggregate, but also even on an individual company or school district kind of basis. We can see if particular organizations are having problems. But I also think the team has developed a culture of really listening to a culture of really listening to customers. And that's everything from an expectation that anyone in the organization should talk to customers frequently, investing in tools within our team so that people can get online and have a discussion with customers about a feature they're working on. It includes things like ethnographic research to help us learn about customers' unmet needs. And we're learning a ton about the kinds of things that people are looking for and want in this new world.
Do I see a little bit of product placement behind you over your right shoulder there? I can't help thinking there's a new platform inside.
Yes.
How strange. How did you get hold of that one?
What a coincidence.
I'm looking.
One of the perks of the job is not just getting to try out, but be playing a role in the creation of all these amazing new experiences and thinking about how we bring together all the best of Microsoft.
So you, as we said earlier, you spent a long time with Windows. As you moved into Office, what was that transition like? You've come in as the senior leader of the CVP in a fast-changing world. Talk us through that for a moment.
Well, as in my job role in Windows, I've spent a lot of time with people in the Office group for many, many years. So the humans and individuals have been close to me. I've viewed those people as partners and friends. And now the biggest change is joining the team and focusing on great user scenarios. I mentioned the idea of us really trying to listen to customers and both fix the things that they're having trouble with in the products as defined today, but also discover the new kinds of needs and new unarticulated things that they wish we were doing. And the creative partnership has been amazing.
It truly is amazing. And all I can say, I think the Office experience is amazing. We really appreciate you joining us on Ignite. Sorry we haven't got more time to catch up, Joe. Have a great rest of Ignite and looking forward to seeing where you take Office in the next year. Thanks very much to Joe Belfiore.
Thanks a lot.
Now,